There's something most men never realize. Women don't fall for a man because he tries harder. They fall for him because he stands differently. Not louder, not richer, not tougher, but clearer. A man with boundaries moves through the world with a level of peace and confidence that cannot be faked. And when a woman feels that, especially a high-value woman, she notices instantly because boundaries aren't walls. They're signals. They tell her the quality of man you are before you even speak. They show her what you tolerate, what you don't, what you honor, and what you refuse to sacrifice. And the truth is simple. A woman can only respect a man when he respects himself first. But many men struggle with this. They think being flexible makes them easy to love. They think giving more will make her stay. They think saying yes earns appreciation. Yet in reality, every time a man abandons his own needs to satisfy someone else, he becomes less visible, less desired, and eventually less respected. High-value women aren't drawn to a man who bends. They're drawn to a man who chooses, a man who moves with purpose, a man who isn't afraid to disappoint someone if it means staying true to himself. And that's where boundaries come in, not as a form of control, not as coldness, not as punishment, but as a form of identity. They show that you have a life, a direction, a standard, and an inner world that cannot be pushed off balance. Today, you're going to learn 6 powerful boundaries that make a woman look at a man differently, not because he demands attention, but because he quietly commands it. These are the boundaries that shift how she speaks to you, how she views you, and how she values your presence. First, holding your emotional center. No matter what, a man who can hold his emotional center carries a presence that a high-value woman immediately feels. It's the kind of energy that says he's aware of his feelings, but he's not controlled by them. He can be warm without being needy, attentive without losing himself, and connected without collapsing into chaos whenever something doesn't go his way. Most men don't realize how powerful this is. Many react too quickly to a message, to a tone, to silence, to uncertainty. They let impulse speak for them. They panic when they don't get instant validation. They shift emotionally based on what a woman does or doesn't do. And the moment a woman senses that her mood can dictate his entire state, she loses respect. Holding your emotional center means you stay rooted even when things feel uncertain. You don't rush to solve, beg, chase, or over-explain. You give situation space. You allow your emotions to pass through instead of exploding outward. You don't let fear push you into acting out of character. When a man does this, something shifts inside a woman. She sees that he isn't trying to be strong. He is strong. She senses steadiness, the kind that makes her feel safe, respected, and even more attracted. A man who holds his center becomes someone she can lean into without feeling like she's overwhelming him. Imagine this. She pulls back for a moment. Maybe she gets distant. Maybe she takes longer to reply. Maybe she's processing something. Most men would react instantly, sending multiple messages, questioning her feelings, or changing their behavior to win her back. But the man with emotional stability doesn't shift. He continues living, moving, thinking, doing. His life doesn't pause because someone took a step back. That calmness speaks louder than any words. It tells her he values connection, but he won't crumble without it. And that balance, emotional awareness without emotional chaos, is one of the strongest boundaries a man can ever carry. Second, not giving instant access to your time or attention. One of the strongest boundaries a man can set, and one of the most attractive to a high-value woman, is protecting his time and attention. Not in a cold or distant way, but in a grounded, intentional way. When a man gives everything too quickly, he unintentionally communicates that his time has no structure, no direction, and no value. And when time feels cheap, attention loses its impact. High V-value women pay close attention to how A manages his world. They notice whether he has rhythm, purpose, commitments, and priorities. When a man immediately responds to every message, rearranges his plans at the slightest request, or drops everything the moment she shows interest, it sends a message he doesn't realize he's sending, that he's available to anyone at any moment without limit. But when a man has a life that doesn't pause simply because someone reaches out, that's when his presence becomes more meaningful. He's not withholding. He's simply living. He's not trying to appear mysterious. He naturally carries mystery because he's engaged in his own world. He's not pretending to be busy. He genuinely has a life that matters to him. A man like this doesn't run to the phone every time it vibrates. He doesn't abandon his routine because someone suddenly wants attention. His day is built on intention, not reaction. And that structure tells a woman something deep about him, that he isn't searching for someone to fill his time. He's inviting someone to complement it. Imagine this. She reaches out wanting to talk or spend time. And instead of dropping everything, he continues with what he's already committed to calmly, respectfully, without urgency. When he finally replies or shows up, his attention feels real. It feels chosen, not taken. Women feel the difference immediately because when a man's time is respected by himself, it becomes valuable to others. And when his attention isn't handed out freely, it becomes something she wants to earn, not something she expects. This boundary doesn't push women away, it pulls in the right ones. It attracts women who appreciate a man with a full life, who value emotional maturity, and who understand that real connection grows in the spaces between, not in constant availability. A man who protects his time doesn't lose opportunities, he creates better ones. And the woman who recognizes his worth will align with it, not compete for control of it. Third, refusing to enter relationships without mutual effort. One of the strongest boundaries a man can set is simple. He doesn't step into anything that isn't mutual, not affection, not energy, not effort, not interest. This boundary is powerful because it protects a man from chasing, pleading, convincing, or trying to earn a place in someone's life. A high-value woman doesn't want a man who pushes for love. She wants a man who recognizes when love is being given back. Many men fall into the habit of doing too much too soon. They carry the weight of the connection on their own shoulders. They reach out first every time, plan everything, initiate every conversation, and pour in effort even when the energy from the other side is inconsistent. Over time, that imbalance drains them, slowly making them feel unappreciated and unseen. But when a man demands mutual effort, not through words, but through the way he carries himself, everything shifts. He stops accepting one-sided relationships. He stops participating in situations where he gives more than he receives. He stops believing that patience alone can fix something that never started in balance. This boundary shows a woman something essential, that he knows his emotional value. He's not desperate for attention or companionship. He doesn't treat connection like a prize. He needs to win. He understands that the right person will meet him where he stands, not make him climb endlessly. And this creates a different type of dynamic. Instead of chasing, he observes. Instead of proving himself, he lets the interaction speak. Instead of forcing connection, he lets it grow only if both sides nourish it. His presence becomes calm, not demanding. His energy becomes stable, not anxious. His standards become clear, not negotiable. High V-value women are drawn to this type of man because he's not trying to impress anyone. His effort is intentional, measured, and based on what he receives. He's capable of giving deeply, but only when the connection is balanced, respectful, and emotionally healthy. When a man refuses to enter relationships that require him to overextend, he stops feeling drained and starts feeling chosen. He becomes harder to access, but easier to respect. And the woman who truly appreciates him will show it, not with promises, but with effort that mirrors his own. Fourth, walking away from disrespect the first time. It appears one of the most defining boundaries a man can have is the ability to walk away the moment disrespect shows up. Not after 3 chances, not after a long explanation, not after hoping things will improve, but the very first time it crosses the line. This single boundary reveals a man's self-respect more clearly than anything else. Disrespect doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it's subtle, a tone that cuts, a comment that belittles, a moment where your feelings are dismissed, or an attitude that makes you feel small instead of valued. Many men try to overlook these things. They tell themselves it wasn't a big deal, or they don't want to create conflict, or they're afraid of losing her. But every time a man lets disrespect slide, he sends a silent message that his dignity is negotiable. A high-value woman responds differently to a man who carries this boundary. She recognizes that his respect for himself creates the standard for how others treat him. It communicates strength without aggression, clarity without drama, and confidence without arrogance. It shows he isn't interested in controlling anyone. He's simply unwilling to shrink himself for the sake of keeping someone close. Walking away doesn't mean reacting impulsively or creating unnecessary conflict. It means recognizing when someone crosses a line that should never be crossed in a healthy connection. It means valuing your peace over temporary emotions. It means knowing that affection given without respect is not affection worth holding on to. Men who lack this boundary often find themselves in situations where they accept behavior that slowly erodes their sense of worth. They try harder, hoping things will change, not realizing that accepting disrespect teaches others how to continue treating them. But men who honor this boundary create a different type of dynamic, one where respect becomes the foundation, not a request. A woman may not always realize the weight of her actions in the moment, but she always notices a man's response. When he quietly distances himself, not to punish, but to protect his value, it shifts the tone. It sets a clear standard. If someone wants a place in his life, they must treat him with the level of care he treats himself with. This boundary protects a man's identity. It preserves his emotional balance. It reinforces the truth that he is not afraid to lose someone. He's only afraid of losing himself in the process. And that kind of strength is deeply, undeniably attractive. Fifth, protecting your purpose and personal space. A man becomes most magnetic when his life has direction. When he has something that drives him, challenges him, expands him, and gives him meaning beyond romance. Protecting your purpose and your personal space is one of the strongest boundaries you can set because it shows that your identity doesn't revolve around someone else's presence. It grows from within you. Many men lose themselves when they fall for a woman. They start rearranging their schedule, abandoning their routines, and allowing their focus to drift. Slowly, the things that once grounded them, their goals, their work, their passions, their physical health, their peace, begin to fade into the background. And while they think this proves devotion, it often has the opposite effect. It makes them feel smaller, more uncertain, and easier to overlook. A high-value woman doesn't want to become your entire world. She wants to feel invited into a world that already has structure and meaning. She wants to see a man who can love deeply, but who still holds space for his own growth. Purpose creates direction, and direction creates confidence. When a man protects that, he shows he's not just living, he's evolving. Personal space works the same way. It's not distance or coldness, it's breathing room. It's a man having moments that belong only to him. Time to reset, time to think, time to focus, time to be still. It's a quiet signal that his life isn't crowded, rushed, or dependent. When a man guards his space, he becomes easier to respect, not because he pulls away, but because he stands firm. His boundaries around his schedule, his goals, his rest, and his mental clarity show that he honors himself. And when a man honors himself, a woman naturally leans in with more admiration. Protecting your purpose also means not allowing someone else's emotions or expectations to derail your vision. You stay consistent. You stay committed. You keep moving. You don't slow down your life just to prove affection. You let your presence show it. This boundary makes a man feel grounded. It keeps him from losing sight of who he is. And it silently communicates that he's building something real, something that anyone who joins his life must respect. A man who protects his purpose is a man who becomes unforgettable, not because he tries to be, but because he lives in a way that leaves a lasting impression. Sixth, being honest about your standards and not negotiating them. One of the most powerful boundaries a man can ever set is knowing exactly what he wants and refusing to shrink, edit, or water down his standards just to keep someone interested. Too many men bend themselves into smaller versions of who they are because they're afraid of losing someone. And the truth is, the moment you start negotiating your standards, you've already lost more than you realize. There's a quiet strength in a man who says, "This is what I value. This is what I require. This is how I expect to be treated. Not loudly, not aggressively, but with clarity. A woman feels that immediately. She senses a man who lives by principles, not pressure. A man who doesn't chase approval, but alignment. But here's where many men go wrong. They pretend to have standards they don't enforce. They say they want respect, yet stay when they're dismissed. They say they won't tolerate inconsistency, yet make excuses for it. They say honesty matters to them, but ignore red flags because they fear being alone. Then later, they're confused about why they feel drained, unappreciated, or replaced. This is the moment men need to wake up. You cannot attract a high-value woman if you accept a low-value version of yourself. You cannot expect loyalty if you tolerate disrespect. You cannot demand quality when you allow chaos. Your standards aren't meant to punish anyone. They're meant to protect you. They're meant to keep your life clean, stable, calm, and emotionally healthy. They're meant to guide you towards someone who actually matches your heart, your mind, and your future. Being honest about your standards also means being honest with yourself. It means admitting where you've allowed too much, where you've stayed too long, where you've ignored the truth because you hoped someone would magically change. Growth requires facing your own patterns, not just the behavior of others. A man with standards doesn't need to tell anyone what they are. He simply lives them. His words, his reactions, his presence, they all reveal the blueprint of a man who respects his own life. And when a woman sees that, especially a high-value woman, the way she treats him shifts. She steps with more care, more intention, more appreciation. Standards aren't about perfection. They're about self-respect. And when a man truly holds them, his relationships transform, not because he becomes harder to love, but because he becomes impossible to take for granted. The truth is, boundaries don't push high-value women away. They filter out the ones who were never meant to stay. And here's the controversial part. Many men don't struggle because women have high standards. They struggle because women finally stopped accepting men who have none. That's the shift no one wants to say out loud. It's not that dating has become impossible. It's that self-respect is no longer optional. Every boundary you learn today is more than a rule. It's a reflection of who you are becoming, a man who values his time, protects his peace, walks away from disrespect, and stands firm in what he believes. That kind of man doesn't chase attraction. He creates it. His presence becomes different. His energy becomes rare. And a high-value woman feels that long before she understands it. Remember this. A woman can love many things about you, but she will respect you only if you respect yourself first. Boundaries are not walls. They are invitations to treat you correctly. They show people how to love you, how to approach you, and how to stay in your life without damaging who you are. I want you to take a moment and think about your own patterns. Which of these boundaries do you need to strengthen? Where have you been giving too much? Where have you been accepting too little? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. I want to read them, understand your situation, and connect with you personally. I'll be responding because these conversations matter, and your story might be the one that helps another man wake up. If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs it. And never forget, the moment you choose yourself, your entire world begins to shift.